Tonight it is just me and Noel, and we are just going to talk to you guys about, well, what we've been watching. Okay, Noel, do you want to take it off since you have more recommendations than I do?
Well, I was actually going to do like talk about things I've been thinking about that link some of the movies, and I talked to you guys a little bit about it before, and possibly maybe for a future, bigger conversation. But I was thinking that I've been thinking a lot about. I think my two favorite films from last year were 10 Cloverfield Lane and Don't Breathe. You've seen both, right?
Yes.
And sorry. And I think that they're very similar in that they're both about a father figure and a daughter figure, and they seem to resonate with each other, and I feel like they're both portraits of what's going on in the country right now in a really interesting way. They're both political in a weird way. There's certainly issues of poverty in both films, and living in kind of a wasteland. In 10 Cloverfield Lane, it's like possibly sci-fi wasteland, but in Don't Breathe, it's like the most brutal neighborhood of Detroit you've ever seen. It's just so horrible. And people have nothing, people have nothing, and people are living alone. And the guys on Jibber Jabber, hey, Kevin and Mr. Jibber Jabber, Kevin said something really interesting about why people complain with 10 Cloverfield Lane about the last part of the film where she escapes from the compound, and a lot of people don't like it. You're typing is super loud, just
I'm
so you
sorry.
know.
I'm trying to look up images of Jibber Jabber.
And Kevin said the film is about different kinds of fear, and that John Goodman's character represents, the ultra right wing kind of hide yourself away from the enemy, that they're coming to get you, paranoia, fear, and that the lead actress, the lead character, who's a woman in her 20s, when she escapes, spoiler alert, her fear is about getting involved, because at the beginning of the film she talks about she broke up, the relationship breaks up, and I think that this has been a long time since I've seen it, but the phone call from the boyfriend says like an unwillingness to commit, or there's a whole series of things at the beginning that give us clues that she's very detached and distant from the world around her. And the very end, she makes the choice to overcome her fear and join some kind of larger community that's fighting the invasion. Now, this is all meaningless to anybody who hasn't seen 10 Cloverfield Lane. Let me just say, you must see 10 Cloverfield Lane, whether you like the original Cloverfield or not. It is a beautiful film. It's perfectly executed. And it's not that. And then Don't Breathe is similar. It's 3 or 4 people in a very enclosed space, and it ends up being a showdown between a young woman in her 20s and an older man who's disturbed, because the John Goodman character in 10 Cloverfield Lane is very disturbed. So there's this younger woman, older man, and in both films the men are trying to make the woman into daughter figures. And I thought that, and there's a kind of everybody is and daughter figure / certainly in 10 Cloverfield Lane, it's not clear if he wants a sexual relationship with her. I think it's a daughter thing, even though
I feel like it's a daughter thing, but it does border on the strange daughter.
Totally.
Because they're very questionable at times.
I agree, because he shows her pictures of a young woman who he says was her daughter, and then you find out she wasn't his daughter, but you don't know, was he raping her? Was there a sexual
Yeah,
thing?
and he's definitely like really jealous of the other guy whenever the other guy like touches her or just even gets
Right.
close to her. He's just like, no, 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 she's mine.
But yeah, this is we're
Hmm.
talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane. There's three people,
Yes.
and a young man,
And John,
our young woman, and John Goodman is amazing.
yeah, John Goodman's amazing in everything, but like seriously, 10 Cloverfield Lane, he reminded me how amazing he is.
I think it's the best performance of his I've
Yeah.
ever seen. I'm not a fan of his, and he plays on all of his worst qualities in 10 Cloverfield Lane. But then
Hmm.
you realize it's for a
Yeah.
reason. It's for a bigger purpose. And then you get the same kind of weird showdown, and it is a father in Don't Breathe trying to get a
Hmm.
replacement daughter. Now, it does have a sexual component, but in a really sick and twisted way. And I think that it's not sexual in an overt way, but the subtext of what's going on is in fact, it's explicitly
Yeah,
sexual.
it is. It's incredibly like a lot of people are. I remember a lot of people arguing that that's like what was going on in that film was not rape, and I'm like, it absolutely was. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
if you force something into a woman's vagina, whether it's your
Hmm.
penis or not, it
Anything.
sounds more gruesome than it is for anybody listening. Don't Breathe
That's
is
a very small part of the movie too.
it's a very small part of the movie,
Yeah.
and it's super important to what I'm thinking because it's about trying to the father figure in Don't Breathe. He's blind and he's very troubled, and he's a veteran, which is very much of the moment. And he I don't want to give too much away again because
Yeah.
Don't Breathe is such
I
a
do love like I went into Don't Breathe completely blind, and I love
yeah,
doing that in movies. That's the only
I
way
think
I want to see any movie, and I
yeah,
love just how many twists that movie kept
oh
taking. Like
yeah,
as I was going through it, I'm like, oh, it's like a weird heist movie. Oh wait, no, it's this dude's like
Home Invasion
crazy. What's
reverse,
that? What's that? Blind Fury, the blind kung fu movie.
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh wait, no, this is like weird Blind Fury. Oh wait, no, it keeps getting worse.
Yeah, and then it's sort of, I've heard it accused of going into torture porn territory at the end, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it is because yes, it has rape elements to it, but ultimately John Goodman says to the young woman in 10 Cloverfield Lane, please don't leave me. That's the last thing he says
Mm-hmm.
before she escapes. I did spoil that. And I think that in Don't Breathe, he's doing a similar thing. He's desperate and sad. Like in both films, I feel so sorry for everybody, basically. Everybody's really messed up
Mm-hmm.
and people are unable to connect. And I mean, you feel empathy for the young woman in Don't Breathe who's trying to steal the guy's money
Yeah.
because she's living in a horrible home environment and her younger sister is being, she wants to take her younger sister out of a really desperate home environment that didn't seem overdone to me at all. That seemed very realistic.
Yeah. No, it was good.
Um, I mean, we're talking about what's going on in this country, in the middle of this country. These are, I hate to say it, but these are Trump areas, or these are, well, maybe I don't know about Detroit, but this is middle America, and this is all of our worst fears about what's going on in this country, and families breaking apart, and veterans coming back from the war really disturbed, and people losing their children, and this whole idea of who's gonna be left behind when I'm gone, and the father figure, the old blind man, veteran, crazy, in Don't Breathe, is very concerned about having a grandchildren. Let's just put
Yeah.
it that way. And I find it very moving in a very weird way, as sick and weird and twisted as it is. So I thought that both of those films were really interesting in that this father-daughter thing seemed to be going on. And then I watched more recently Train to Busan, the Korean zombie on a train film. Have you watched it yet, Monica?
No, I have not. It's on my list. I'm going through it. I gotta watch that and Raw still.
Oh, oh. Raw's another one. I mean, Raw is dealing with a sister thing, I think, more than anything, although there's a little bit of family stuff on the edge, so on the edges of the story. But yeah, that's another film we have got to talk about because it's a young female director and a young female protagonist. Similarly, I just think that the coming wave of horror is going to be directed by women and starring women, and women in strong roles, not
I'm all
victims.
for that.
So anyway, Train to Busan is it's a great film, like all the Korean horror we've seen and that I've seen. I mean, I have yet to see a Korean horror or thriller that didn't have great, that wasn't. It may have flaws, but it's just so full of invention and excitement and always so well made. And the acting is always so good and grounded. At least it seems from, culturally from our perspective. But it's all. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what I've noticed from the Korean horror that I've watched, the thing that always impresses me the most is just the characters. Like, we kind of have cookie cutout characters that we throw in, not just horror films, like movies in general. We keep throwing in, like, A profile here meets B profile here and shenanigans. But I like Korean horror films because you get all wide scopes of personalities and fully fleshed out characters with backgrounds and mental illnesses, and like they're really good. It's more realistic, slightly cartoony sometimes, but life is cartoony.
I agree that that's what makes the Korean, particularly the crime thrillers, which border onto horror in the Korean realm. I agree that the characters, and that's what I loved, and what was so unusual about Don't Breathe and 10 Cloverfield Lane, is that those were character studies, character dramas, as much as they were thrill rides or horror. The characters took precedence over the horror. And Train to Busan is even more what you're saying, because you get a whole, because it's a public train, people traveling, you get a whole wide range of different types and different kinds of people interacting. And even if there wasn't the zombies, you could imagine it still being really interesting, because you've got all these different types and they're all interacting in different ways. And yes, they pay a lot of attention to who these people are, and all, you follow all the nuances. They're so detailed about how people deal with each other. And in Train to Busan, it's a father and his young daughter, and the father gets messages. I think he might have a phone call or two with the ex-wife. And just from those little phone calls, you learn so much about the relationship between the father, his ex-wife, and the daughter. And in Train to Busan, the father is very detached. He's very obsessed with, work and finances and money. And he's young, and the daughter's really young. And the Koreans have no qualms about, using little innocent girls, like in peril. Now, in an American film, I would throw up. I would say this is totally I guess Poltergeist got away with it, but I don't think I would buy it. I think everybody would say that's cheap.
Even looking back with Poltergeist, like the only scene where the child was actually in peril was when she was being sucked into the closet. The rest of the time it was just like, they're here, like she's just hearing voices and seeing stuff. It wasn't anything really dangerous until that one scene.
We hear her, but she's in peril, and that's kind of, even though we don't see any real violence. And I would say in the Korean horror I'm thinking of, we don't see, I can't remember, but the host is a father figure and a daughter. Is he her father, or is he like her uncle? Or her brother?
It's been a long time, but I feel like he was her uncle.
Something like that.
But it has been a very long time since I've seen this movie.
So I feel like the host and Train to Busan, and it's the same director, right? I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's a crystal question.
Isn't it Bong Joon? Well, it's Bong Joon-ho did the host. Didn't he do Train to Busan? I'm almost positive. I should have done my research better.
I didn't either, don't worry. I was so busy setting up Twitch.
But
Train to Busan is... No, it's Sang-ho Yeon.
Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure of that director. I don't know.
It's got a similar vibe in that it's... I'm
not recognizing anything else of his.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I feel like he's done something I've seen, but I don't remember. Anyway, it's another father-daughter thing, and the little girls in peril in the Korean films we've seen don't bother me as much. Now, maybe a sophisticated Korean horror audience would be like throwing up too. I don't know, like we would if it was, an American film. But and the daughter, the young girl in Train to Busan is very similar to the one in The Host. And The Host is a Korean monster movie from a few years ago for anybody that's listening. And we're like running through all these movies and people may not know what I'm talking about. But Train to Busan is last year, and it's a similar little girl. It might even be the same actress. It's a smart, quiet, but very perceptive young woman, and the father is very distant and detached. And I think a lot happens in Train to Busan, and it moves very fast, and there's a lot of characters. But basically, it's about a relationship between a father and a daughter, and the father's inability to realize that he needs to it sounds really conventional that he needs to put his family first. But again, and the same thing with The Host, even though he's her uncle, he's responsible for her, and he's behaving like a teenager when the film starts. And by the end, there's some sense that he's grown and he's more capable of taking care of this young girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It just keeps coming up again and again if I was going to get really pretentious, which is what I tend to do, or read too much into this, I would say that this is of great concern because the older white man, and not even white, but we know that the family unit is no longer what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that single parent households are like, you don't even, is nothing now. It's not even marked upon. But I do think that symbolically, the father who's working and taking care of the family, or the father who hasn't grown up yet, or the father who's deranged, like all of these patriarchal figures, they haven't really, the world is not they haven't done a great job, or they're not doing a great job, or we're coming to ecological crisis or whatever, the world's ending, and they've dropped the ball, and it's worse now than ever. And I don't need to mention any names, or I'm not going to talk about obvious stuff. And I think that if you look at universities or educational institutions or all the big careers or fields, it's all women. I mean, women are entering the workforce and entering the educational system just in unprecedented numbers. And there's no question that the future of the world belongs to women. And I think that there's this question of how is that handoff going to happen? And can the men who fumble the world, because the guy in Train to Busan is all involved with money and all the kind of financial shenanigans that have gotten us into so much trouble and have created so many problems for so many people. I mean, the film is definitely making a political commentary as far as that goes. And I see the zombies in Train to Busan as like the flow of global capital. I know that's insane, and I don't know what makes me think that, but when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, this is about the circulation of global capital. I had no idea why I think that. But basically handing off the world from the father to the daughter, and the men unwilling to let go, and they have to let go because they don't have a choice. And it's huge, but I'm only talking about, I can't say from 4 films I can come up with this huge metaphor for what's going on in the entire world, because it isn't just the United States. I'm talking about Korea as well. But their capitalism has gone bonkers in Korea the way that it has here in the past, and I don't know. So these have been really, all these films, all 4 of these films, The Host, Train to Busan, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and Don't Breathe. And I would say anybody listening must see all 4 of them. You won't be disappointed. They've all got.
Oh, go ahead.
But just what you said, that you can't help but feel for everybody, even the monster and the host. You kind of feel sad for him, because we saw in the introduction in The Host, that first scene, we see that the creepy American old man tells the young Korean assistant, "Oh, pour all of these toxic chemicals into the river." So it's like the poor creature and the host. It's not his fault, He's stuck in the river and he's flat thrashing around. So basically, yeah, empathy for everybody and trying to figure out a really difficult, not just family, but I think world situation. So you were going to say something, Monica.
I was just going to mention, because you were talking about how it kind of reflects what's going on socioeconomically in today, and I find that interesting because when it comes to history and past civilizations, we always know more about them based on the stories they tell more than anything else than we can learn from anything else.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we do tell more about ourselves in the stories we tell than we do when we just flat out talk to people on the news or anything. It's always, I think there's something to be said for, it's kind of like when you're trying to talk to your doctor about an illness you have, it's easier for you to say, well, my friend has this rash. And I feel like it's almost easier for us to express our feelings if it's not our feelings, it's this character's feelings.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's a great parallel.
And well, because I started thinking about it because I was watching this After Hours video on Crack's channel on YouTube, and they have one talking about how 80s and 90s sitcoms mostly, there were some like regular normal platonic families, but largely were single dads. Yeah. Because around that time divorce was getting big, and it was in the shows it was usually because the mother died, but they were more trying to deal with the fact that now it's normal to be a single dad or a single mom, and they were trying to show it in still a kind of way that won't rock the boat by saying like, oh, the parent died, but it was just more of helping people associate with divorce and realize that there is life after divorce, and you can have a happy family and you can get through all these problems without or with just one parent or two dads or two moms or whatever. And so like just looking at television in the 80s and 90s told us a lot about us as a civilization in the 80s and 90s. And I kind of wonder like what the movies today are saying about us. And you bringing up this whole, not even just America, like America and Korea have a fascination with the untraditional and kind of failing father figure. So that kind of makes me think about what our movies are saying about us today. And our father figures.
Oh, absolutely. I read a theory that the sitcoms from the 80s and 90s of the single father, or no, they had said that the satire, that the American father being no longer having to be the macho aggressor started like post World War II, like immediately with like, Leave It to Beaver and Andy Griffith and all that kind of stuff of these father figures. They're either being satirized or their powers being taken away from them, that it's a process of, it's after the violence of World War II, or I can't remember what this theory said, but the representation of fatherhood and manhood in American culture has been so complicated. And horror films always reflect it, right? Because there's always violence, so it's like who's doing the violence and why.
Yeah, it's always, it seems to be the ones that talk more about political issues are always comedy and horror, because they both are, it's easier for them to go to the extreme spectrum. Yeah. So comedy can go to the extreme because it's satire, but horror can go to the extreme because that's what you want when you get horror. Right. That's what you're looking for.
Right, exactly. And I mean, like The Exorcist is about post-Vietnam men regaining their sense of selves, but of course the way they do it is by beating up young girls, or one young girl in this case. The father, Karras, rediscovers his manhood because he's felt that he's been a failure up until then. And that's another father. I mean, that's a single parent film, but Regan's she's got like 5 father figures in that film, and she goes through. She knocks them side and to the left and right. She gets through them all. I love that. I love that aspect of that film. I'm like, you go, girl. they're assholes. And that's one way of reading that film. But yeah, no, I agree with you that there's so many ways to read. But yeah, it's always has a political residue. I think in something like Train to Busan, I think, I don't know, do you feel like the horror films from Korea that we've seen and the thrillers and the violent films, they seem so high budget. They seem so well made. They seem made with so much care and craft, like a monster. I guess that's the same here. Like,
I don't know if because I know several countries have like tax write-offs and like what do you call those, stipends if you film in the country because they're trying. I don't know if Korea has that, but I know when it comes to like K-pop, have you ever watched any K-pop music videos?
No,
they have full-fledged movie budgets. Some K-pop music videos I've watched look better than most of the movies I see.
That's funny.
I don't know if it's a government stimulus thing or if that's just they're like, hey, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna go all out. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. Because I know we're just talking about a tiny sliver of Korean culture. There's like a huge film industry for romantic comedies. Like they do all kinds of things. But boy,
they have K-dramas. They're more popular than our soap operas.
Yeah, right. But boy, the ones we've watched, just so much care is taken, like you said, the writing and the characterization and top-notch acting. And
I was actually talking to one of my coworkers about the cop dramas, the Korean cop dramas, because he loves Korean cop dramas. So I was telling him, like just the cop films, and I was telling him about I Saw the Devil and Mother. I told him you should watch Mother. And he was telling me about a bunch, and he's like, I thought you were a horror fan. And I'm like, have you watched Korean cop dramas? Because those are horror films.
Some of the bloodiest films I've ever seen. And people get so scared at the J-horror, and I'm like, it is so soft. And the same thing with like all of our American horror right now is going through this very soft phase of, Annabelle and haunted houses and old school ghosts. And we're supposed to be terrified. The Conjuring, me and a friend, I hope I haven't said all of this before, but me and a friend made jokes about it that, someone clapping is supposed to be terrifying. It's like, this is the stupidest thing I think we've ever seen. Or let me put it this way, there's nothing scary about it at all. And man, those Korean films, they cut right to the chase and they bore deep. And the horror, the blood, at first I felt that it was excessive. And now the more I see them, the more I realize it's part of the language of the genre, or that I don't know, it doesn't feel, I'm not going to say it's not excessive because it is, but the violence in something like Mother, another film that everybody needs to see. This is like 2015, 14, maybe.
I don't remember.
Korean film, not Mama.
All these questions.
Oh no, I know. Everybody should see Mother.
2009. Oh wait.
Oh, it's that early, huh? It might be that.
Yeah, that's the Korean one. Yeah, 2009.
Yeah. I mean, all the violence in that film is important and significant, because these filmmakers are telling real stories. I'm really excited to see where the Cloverfield people go next, because the end of 10 Cloverfield Lane, it gives you a taste of what the next movie might be like, possibly. But I didn't like the first Cloverfield at first, and then watching it again, I realized how really I think it's amazing. And having been in now I'm going off on a whole other tangent. Sorry. All right.
No. I mean, I appreciated Cloverfield, but I didn't love Cloverfield. But I adore 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think it's fantastic. Everybody there's only 3 people in it, but they were all phenomenal.
You could adapt it you could do a stage version of it.
Yeah. Oh man, I would watch that so fast.
The writing is so good if you have the right actors. Really.
And I really like. I didn't actually know the other guy, but the girl from Scott Pilgrim and John Goodman. I like both of them. I think they're both phenomenal actors.
I think the young guy was good too, and I know
he was good, but I don't know who he is.
He was in. He's in something.
Hold on,
I can't remember. He's really good.
Lane, IMDb. There's only like 3 people in this movie. John
There is a
Gallagher.
fourth.
He's in Hush. He's in Belko Experiment.
Oh, Hush was he the kill?
He's in Jonah
No,
Hex.
Hush was such a disappointment.
Not a whole lot of big things are popping out, other than he does a lot of cop dramas. It looks like Law and Order, NYPD Blue,
Did you
stuff
see
like that.
Hush?
Hush. Oh yeah. Oh snap. Yeah, I was like reading it off, and I didn't realize what it was. I liked Hush. I liked that movie a
Yeah,
lot.
I thought it could have gone so much further. And whoever played the killer, I don't think it's that guy, is it? Did he play
He
the
was
killer?
the man, unless that was the fiance of the other girl. He's just listed as the man, so I think so.
He was so less impressive in Hush than he was in Cloverfield.
I like that movie because it's one of the few movies that actually deal with that. Like, what if you are deaf and you have a home invasion? You don't know. You're not aware of it.
Yeah.
Like that. It was a whole new fear I didn't know I had. Basically, that's why I enjoyed it.
What, a fear of going deaf and then getting...
A fear of going deaf, not realizing it, and then someone breaks into my house at the same time.
I think you know you've gone deaf before anybody had time
I
to
don't
break
think
in.
you're aware of how oblivious I can be sometimes.
You're usually doing 8 things at once, so
I know.
you're not that
I'd be like,
oblivious.
why'd my TV stop playing sound? What's wrong with my TV?
I don't know. You would know. We need Kenda for the discussion about hearing.
Oh, I know. I immediately told her she should watch that movie after I finished it.
I think there's some things that, because deaf people can hear, some can hear sound, and certainly vibration.
And there's a lot to be said for vibration and lights and reflections and stuff like that.
They weren't that strict. They weren't. Yeah. Anyway, Hush is okay. It gives a marginal recommendation for me.
Because there was that one scene where he like busts in the bathroom behind her, and I was like, dude, I see your hair moving. How do you not know he's behind you? Like, your hair is literally moving around your face.
Well, see, that's a perfect example that all the movies I recommended have great character development, and Hush does not.
Yeah.
The woman, the deaf woman, we don't know very much about her except that she's deaf. And the invader, we hardly know. And more and more, I'm interested in horror movies where the bad person or the monster, we know them, and not that we feel sorry for them, but the more you know the person doing the killing, the more disturbing the movie is, because it's like, oh, I can kind of see where he's or she is coming from. Yeah. Anyway. It's like if I was going back to Don't Breathe, if I was a Vietnam vet who had gone blind or been stricken blind and had lost his daughter and was living in the worst part of Detroit, I mean, I don't think I'd be as crazy as he was in the movie, but I don't think I'd be in a good place. You know what I mean?
And there's something to be said for isolation as well. Like, we don't know how long he's been isolated. Well, I mean, he's got the person in the basement, but aside from the person in the basement who doesn't want to talk to him.
Yep. Anyway, so that was my kind of big thing. So
okay.
What have you been watching?
Well, I've been watching a million things, but the two that I wanted to talk about, I have a good one and I have a meh one. So I'll do meh first. This is it's streaming on Netflix. You can watch it. It's called XX, and it is a series of short films
by women.
Is it really? I didn't even know that.
Isn't that what it is? It's female horror directors.
It would make sense. They all seem to be more focused on the female point of view. I have it up on IMDb. I can look it up. But it's a series of short films, and it wasn't that it was bad. It was just there were 2 short films that I really loved, and then 2 short films that I was like, I could have done without these. I'll talk about the 2 that I really loved. The first one was about basically a little boy who just kind of stops eating because he saw he's on the train and with his family, and it's around Christmas time, and there's a dude that has a present on the train with him, and he's like, oh, what's inside? And the man opens the present, and he's like, he gets off immediately. He's like, oh, it's a present for my family. And he gets off immediately. And it moves on, but you can tell, like, whatever the little boy saw, he's immediately disturbed from that point on. And then from that point on, he stops eating.
It's Gwyneth Paltrow's head, I bet. No, sorry.
What was that, Seven reference?
That was a Seven reference for anybody.
Yeah. But what I
that
really...
would disturb me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Actually,
what,
she disturbs me with her head on.
I know,
so I don't know.
Crystal used to make fun of me because I have this rating of actors of would I trust them with my purse in a party. And she could never understand because Gwyneth Paltrow, I'm like, nah, I wouldn't give her my purse. And Crystal's like, why? I was like, I don't know, I just wouldn't trust her with my purse.
She's too self-involved, something
This was before I even knew anything about her. Just looking at her in movies, I'm like, no, I wouldn't trust her with my purse. And Crystal's like, what are you talking about? Just like, she's just not trustworthy.
She's pretty doesn't mean she's trustworthy. Anyway, sorry.
But what I really loved about this movie was they didn't mention it, but the father cooks dinner for the family every night. And the father, for one thing, I love the role reversal because usually it's the mother that's always like, there's something wrong with the kid. There's something wrong. I just know. It's mother's instinct. I just know there's something wrong with the kid. And the husband is always like, oh, whatever. You're just being crazy and patronizing and all that. But in this movie, it was the other way around. The father was the one that was like super concerned about the little boy. He hasn't been eating. And the mother was like, I'm sure he's just loading up on junk food at school. Mm-hmm. So when he comes home, he's not hungry. But then it's like a weekend and he's not eating all day. And the father, like, they show every meal the father makes. And I really loved this because
that's
the
fabulous.
First meal was like, fancy hoity-toity rich people food, like some chicken foie gras or something. Can't even pronounce it right because I don't eat that. But
I'm not sure what you were even trying to pronounce.
Foie gras.
Oh, foie gras.
Foie gras.
Don't ever eat that. It's where they shove the tube down the poor duck, but we don't need to go there.
Anyways, but it's like fancy food. And then the next day, it's like lasagna. And then the next day, it's spaghetti and meatballs. And then the next day, it's like pigs in a blanket and pizza. And you can tell, like, the father is trying to appeal more and more to the child because he wants the kid to eat. And that was such a small detail that it came across. Because, I mean, you only have like 15 minutes for the short film to go.
Right.
And that right there told me everything I needed to know about the movie. And I was just like, that was really good, you guys.
You guys.
You did a great job there. Gold star. But then the other short film I really liked in it was pretty much, I feel like it was a massive fan of Rosemary's Baby, just like me. I felt for them. But that story was pretty much, in Rosemary's Baby, there's a scene where she goes to see another doctor, and he tells her to go take a nap, and he'll sort it all out, but then he ends up calling the doctor that's drugging her, and they come and take her away. But this movie is, what if that doctor actually helped Rosemary? Gave her some money, got her a bus ticket, told her to get the hell out of Dodge. And so it picks up from there, and it's her raising this. She's got an 18-year-old boy who's like has Dexter-ish tendencies, and she's really concerned at this point because now he's 18, and she's just like, your father's gonna come for you now. And it's such a good movie, and it had like it was all very subtle, but just from the way they were telling the backstory, I started picking up. I'm like, this is Rosemary's Baby, like 100%. You just took Rosemary's Baby and went a different direction with it.
Oh, how interesting. So it wasn't literal about it, but you could pick it
No,
up.
but I from the beginning, as soon as they had the scene with the doctor, I immediately associated Rosemary's Baby because I'm like, oh, it's like this weird demon child, kind of. But then as it kept going, I was like, no, that's exactly what this is.
Oh,
but
that sounds great.
The ending to it was so beautiful.
Oh, good. Okay. I wasn't sure because I can't see your face, so I wasn't sure.
I know. I was like, I'm trying to figure out how to word this, like, because it wasn't really beautiful, but to me, it was very moving the way they ended it, and I was just like, I was crying actually by the end of that little short film, mostly because I was associating Mia Farrow to it, but it was really good. I was really impressed with that. The other short films were just kind of meh. There was one I really disliked, and then the other one was just like, all right, it's okay. But that was pretty interesting. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. It was definitely worth my time.
Well, listen. I mean, with a omnibus film or whatever, where it's different short films, 2 out of 2 is 50% is really good.
Yeah,
and only because those are notoriously difficult, you know,
Yeah.
because you just can't keep the quality up.
It's like with like ABCs of horror and stuff. It's like they have what 24, 23. How many letters are in the alphabet? I don't know. However many letters are in the alphabet, that's how many films they have, and I can probably think of 5 that I liked from ABCs of horror.
This is the ABCs of Death.
ABCs of Death. You're right. Yeah, ABCs of Death.
And
there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of misses on those, especially when you start getting to the XYZ letters. But
because they run out of possibilities.
Yeah, they're just like, what do I do with Z? Zygote, I guess.
Zebra. You can only do so many horror shorts with zebras or
xylitol?
Xylophones. the haunted xylophone.
Or like it was a killer tomatoes. You do a killer bubblegum. It's just pretty much the blob.
I haven't seen those because they just sound so gruesome, and there's animals.
Some of them are really good, but it's like 5 of them are really good. And then the rest are just... What's the one? There's the other one. I think it's called Holidays. There's another show.
Yeah, right.
The Father's Day. If you can just find that one on YouTube, just watch Father's Day.
Just Father's Day?
That one's phenomenal. Just... Oh, I loved it. I wish... I would love to watch a full version, like a full feature film of that, but I feel like it would ruin it. Because it's like Lights Out. Like, it's one of those things that you don't need to go farther with it.
Right.
The short film is kind of the perfect version of this.
Interesting. I will check that out.
But yeah, the other holiday ones, I mean, some of them were okay. But Father's Day on that was insane good. And then, and my second movie, let me pull up the picture so I can do my scene switcher. My other movie is the one that you recommended to me, the 2015 Evolution.
I'm so glad that you liked it.
I cannot express how much I love this movie. And I loved it too because I was like, Noel just gave me a Lovecraft recommendation and I'm not sure he realized it.
No, I didn't realize
It's hardcore, but it's beautiful.
Really?
It was, I mean... The funny thing is, too, is partway through the film, I forgot it was in another language because there's so little talking in the movie. It's mostly... Little. And that little boy that's in the movie is so expressive with just, like...
So good.
The slightest eye twitch. I knew exactly what was going on in his mind. Like... I don't know if I want to go too far into what Evolution's about, but...
I wouldn't even know how to if I had to. Like, how do you even describe it? A
short synopsis would be a little boy goes swimming they live on like a seaside territory. And I immediately picked up when I was watching this, because I made Paul watch it too. I immediately picked, and I'm happy I did, because it was very Lovecraft, and then I think he liked it. But, I immediately picked up that I'm like, where are all the men in this village? It all seems to be mothers. It's just little boys and their mothers, and that's it. And so basically a little boy goes swimming in the ocean because it's like right outside his front door, and he sees a dead boy in the water and the reefs. And he asks his mom about it, and she's just like, there's no boy there. And she even goes swimming to like show him like there's nobody here. But beyond that, I don't know. I don't want to ruin any of the mystery, but it's definitely if you like The Witch, you would love that movie.
I didn't like The Witch. I love Evolution, I don't want to mislead anybody.
I felt like the pacing, the way they told the story, there were so many similarities between The Witch and this. But the subject matter is very different.
Yeah, and the narrative, I think, is clearer and more concise and really, really sharply honed.
And but in terms of like, a little sweeter as well.
You think it's sweet at the end? I think the end of Evolution is
of Evolution. Oh, I thought it was
ambiguous.
I think that's me reading too much into movies. I do that a lot.
Well, wait a minute. You said you think it's a sweet ending?
Uh-huh.
Well, I think leading up to the end is sweet, but then that very last image is very ambivalent. It's like, maybe this isn't better. You know what I mean? Because you see industrial, kind of. It's all sort of ugly industrial.
I think it's just civilization.
Yeah, but but I don't know. I got a vibe of... The movie is so quiet, and there's so little talking that you can read so much into it. You know? it doesn't tell you how to feel about any of it, and it's I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I would love to delve into it more in one of our
So much, which
What
is
Doesn't
and it's
Kill
like
Us.
the opposite of what I was talking about. It's all about mothers and sons,
Hmm.
rather than I don't know why this film people weren't talking about this film like they did The Witch. It should have been
Yeah.
a horror sci-fi lovers, dream come true, fantasy horror sci-fi. And it's and why it went under the radar, I don't know.
What country was it? It was I don't even remember. Serbia or something. Let me see.
I guess
IMDb isn't telling me things. Oh, it's France. I was wrong. It's France.
yeah, I was gonna say I think she's the ex-wife of Gaspar Noé, who did Irreversible,
Oh, really?
which is weird, right?
Yeah.
I think I like her movies better than his, but and I wish that the title, when you have a title like Evolution, it's so basic and so bland
It makes sense when you think about it, but it doesn't really tell you anything about the film until you watch it.
and there's no reason why anybody would say, Evolution, we got to watch
And
this.
it's like me and Crystal,
what?
as soon as you told us to watch it, we're like, oh, that old movie with David Duchovny? We've already seen that.
Yeah, it's a bad title. I don't know what a better one would be, but I think you need something more intriguing, and because the film is
called
so
it like, I don't know, something to do with sirens or there's so many names to do with the ocean and mermaids and
yeah.
mystery
So
you could have went for, and yeah.
And it's sort of like a giant hospital, and it seems like it's an island. It's a rocky island, right? Yeah. In terms of fantasy and the whole mermaid and women and sirens, I mean, what did you? Because you know more about that stuff than I do. Did you pick up? And also the Lovecraft connection. Where would that be?
I didn't really connect siren until the very end, and you heard the siren call at the very end. That was when I went, oh wait, maybe this isn't Lovecraft. But regardless, even sirens kind of hint at Lovecraft, because Lovecraft is very much cult worship, and we talked about this in our Apocalypse Trilogy video a little bit, where it's things being normal, but yet just one tick off. So the fact that they were all nurses, but they didn't know how to do a C-section, they were like watching videos of C-sections, or it was a town of just women and little boys. And then it was the waves and the ocean kept calling to them, and that is heavily Lovecraft, because Cthulhu sleeps below the waves.
That's what I was gonna say.
And his call.
Couldn't this island be Cthulhu?
It could be Relay almost. Relay is the city where he slumbers, but the geometry made way too much sense for it actually to be Relay. But
the geometry of like the hospital, the kind of
in Relay, the description of Relay is like, you can be walking in a 90-degree, like say this, I forget, you can't see me. I'm making a 90-degree with my hands.
I've seen you do that before, so I can imagine.
Use your imagination. But you could be walking and like, say you're walking up against a wall, and then you would fall in the crevice of the wall because the 90-degree angle actually was like a portal to the upside down. And then it's like upside down buildings, and just the geometry doesn't make sense. Like, the structures should not be standing because the weight distribution, everything doesn't make sense in Relay. Trying to explain it is, I don't know how Lovecraft ever explains it, but
I would say that the movie Evolution, definitely you can't add up the parts. When you do go into that big hospital, it's everything's wet and everything's like slimy and everything's like
there's always water running down the walls, and it gave me a heavy Lovecraft feeling, just because it was always like the ocean was this impending doom to the little boy, and that's Cthulhu, that's Lovecraft, that's the Cult of Dagon. And even in like the Cult of Dagon, or like cultists, and they slowly turn into like fish people. So the women like
Oh,
heavily were reminding me of the cult of Dagon.
I remember you talking about that and
Fish
how
people.
in well yeah, but in those weird eyes in Carpenter's
Yeah,
The Mouth of
yeah.
Madness that people kind of
The
looked
double
at.
pupils in Mouth of Madness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't. They looked like
Yeah,
some kind of sea
it's
creatures
always
or
like
something.
it's always like trying to be normal but does
Right.
something really bizarre to make it uncanny or really disturbing.
Yeah.
Like
And
if you were talking to someone and then all of a sudden they started talking through their eyeball, like their blinking was mimicking what their mouth should be doing, but they don't realize it and they just keep talking to you.
oh my God, Lovecraft is so creepy. Because I've only
That's why
read the one
everybody
thing.
loves it.
Oh, it creeps me out. I've only read At the Mountains of Madness, and even the most. Yeah, he's really. It's very good. He's really good. He knows how to work language to creep you out. Oh, and it's so. There's something so icky about what he describes. The penguins with no eyes. Oh, it's just so creepy. It's like fish with no, it is.
Yeah.
It's natural world having gone.
Slightly bizarre,
Yeah,
but trying to mimic. And that's why Thing was a good example, because Thing was trying to mimic, but it was failing miserably every time.
right. So yeah, I agree that I mean, evolution is an experience. I would tell people try to see it on the largest screen you can find.
Yeah, I watched it on my computer, and I wish I'd watched it on our big screen TV with the
Yeah,
lights out and just completely experienced it.
it's very much.
It's a very
It's,
atmospheric film.
it's like you're just engulfed in this other world. It's very dreamlike.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense,
dreamlike is a good way to explain it.
I mean, literally dreamlike, where
Yeah.
you're in it, where you really are inside a dream, and it's not. I guess it turns a little nightmarish. I don't know. It's just verges on horror. I don't know that it's sci-fi. I don't know how to describe it, but it's definitely for a horror
I
fan.
would only throw it into science fiction because it reminds me of Lovecraft, and he's kind of cosmic horror.
Yeah.
But there wasn't like any, besides C-sections, there wasn't really any science in it.
But boy, just as you got closer and closer to figuring out what's going on, it was like, oh, please don't go there. Please don't go there. Please don't go there. You know what I mean? Like,
oh man, yeah, there were so many things. I'm like, don't be what I think you're doing.
Oh my God, it was incredible.
Yeah.
I think it'll be one of those films that'll be, rediscovered later.
Hopefully.
Maybe. I hope.
It deserves to be. Maybe we should just keep pushing for it.
Yeah.
And just tell everybody, go watch this movie.
She's directed other things, and I haven't seen those, and I really want to find them now because it's so masterfully direct. I mean, you have to have a really clear vision of what you want, I guess, to create that sense of world that's so complete and so fully immersive.
Yeah. Like, I think she had so much background story and so much everything that was never said, but you understood it just from where they were. Like, that's what was so amazing. There was very little speaking, but I knew everything I needed to know.
Yeah. And you were given a lot of stuff that you could that would stimulate your imagination.
Yeah, it left a lot for you to fill in the blank. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the acting was, even though you wouldn't think acting would be part of something so weird that we're describing, the acting is, like you said, it's super duper duper subtle because they don't say very much and you're not sure what's going on. And the little boy's not sure what's going on and you see things through his eyes.
Yeah, so, I like too, because I mean, when you're a little boy, you just take everything your parents say at like gospel level value. And it's you're seeing a little boy that's actually just now starting to question things.
Right. And like you said, just the movement of his eyebrow, tells you a lot. And the same thing with the mother and all the other mothers in the film. They all are playing very deadpan, so that just the slightest thing, slightest deviation, it's
it does make him and then the one nurse that gives him the journal. It makes them stand out because they're more expressive.
Yeah, and when we say more expressive, we're talking just a teeny little bit compared to what God, it's amazing. I forgot about the nurses sitting around and watching videos of C-section.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh my God, just that it's like
Like
there's
when
nothing
I was
wrong
watching
with
it,
that.
I was like, "This is really, excuse the pun, fishy." This whole area is really fishy. And then when I watched them, I'm like, they don't know how to do C-sections. They're not real nurses. Like,
Well, they are, but oh God, I don't know. I don't want to give any more away, except please watch Evolution from
yeah.
2016 or 2015.
2015.
Yeah, and there are subtitles, but there's very little talking,
Yeah,
so
it's not
if
gonna. If
you're,
you don't like reading subtitles, it's not gonna impede you
it's
that
not going to
much.
bother you. Yeah, it's I've heard about this movie, A Cure for Wellness, and it's gotten really bad reviews.
Oh, I
Or,
want to see it. I
but it
don't.
it looks like the exact same
Yeah, it does look.
environment. It looks so similar, like almost a ripoff. But I don't know if that's true because I haven't seen it yet. But all that watery stuff and the
Mhm.
hospital setting,
Yeah, I
and
really want to
you're
see
not
it.
sure what's going on. So yeah, I guess I'll eventually see it, even though the reviews were not very good. But it looks like the same and almost the same environment. So yeah, yeah. And then you had also said that maybe we'd want to talk about Evolution with Goodnight Mommy, which I've wanted us to talk about Goodnight Mommy
Yeah,
because
I think, and I think those. I was kind of
uh,
waiting for something to put it with, and I feel like that's a good one to put it with.
Goodnight Mommy really, really disturbed me. And
Could
thinking about
you,
it,
like,
really disturbed me the way that Raw did. I mean, Raw is funner.
I haven't seen Raw yet. It's next on my list. That and Train to Busan.
I wouldn't say fun, but Raw's wilder. Goodnight Mommy's very, tamped down and similar to, like you said, yeah, it does have a lot of parallels with Evolution of like, is your mother, or is she some kind of weird
Mhm.
stand-in?
It'd be
And
interesting. We could do like Goodnight Mommy, Evolution, and maybe like Babadook.
oh God, we don't want to talk about the Babadook again.
I love Babadook.
Well, you guys, first of all, the first
We actually
review
have already
done
talked
is
about
the Babadook.
Babadook. Yeah.
And then when we talked about mental illness, or illness, disease, and
Yeah,
talked a lot about
that one was
Babadook.
heavy. Yeah. Ugh, I
That was
just love that movie.
I don't know. Maybe I need
Again,
to,
female horror director.
yeah, that's right. I need to go back to the Babadook because I really disliked it. But maybe that also is mother. Listen, all these films with the mother and
Yeah.
son. It's just like it's so weird. It's so different. It's the exact opposite of what I've been thinking about lately. But yeah, very interesting. But all these films are really deep. All the details have been thought about, and despite the fact that the people in all the creatures and characters in Evolution are ciphers, there's still a lot of characters. I don't know characterization, but like you said, our main characters distinguish
Well, there's
themselves.
still identity within the other characters, but the other characters, the identity is that they are all the same identity.
Yeah.
And then you have two that are not.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. It's like a mixture. It's got a little bit of
It's almost like everyone else is a zombie, and
it's sort of zombie, and it's sort of Invasion of the Body. It has a little bit of Invasion of the Body Snatchers vibe, and it's like a mix. It's got I was trying to think when I was watching it. Oh, this is Splash meets Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I had all these other films I had all these great films I was thinking of that if you mix them together, you get Evolution, but I can't remember now what they were. I know Splash was one of them.
I just saw a recent, again, I watched Cracked like crazy, and they were talking about how Splash is actually, is it Tom Hanks that's the main character in Splash?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Hanks's delusion leading him to suicide.
I remember, I think you forwarded that to us?
Oh, maybe I did. It was so good. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm really big on Cracked. There's one person on Cracked, Daniel O'Brien. I love him because he thinks about movies the same way I do. I just wish he was obsessed with horror like I was. But I like watching him because he goes into these deep theories that I like, and so I send you a lot of Daniel O'Brien stuff.
Right. No, it's good. It's really good. I wish we were that slick, but someday.
We'll get there one day.
We'll get there one day.
Yeah.
So we're actually live streaming, so that's
yes.
That's a big, huge
All of
forward in
our
technology
sins
for us.
and wishes and desires are already out on the interwebs.
Yeah. So I've seen a ton of other things, but I think just to keep
Yeah.
we're already hitting an hour, so we
Yeah,
should
I've
probably
already
stop.
told you about a lot, because I mean, I told you I watched Possession, and I watched most of the stuff you and Crystal recommended
I
to me.
really want us to watch Possession. I mean, I want us to do a discussion of Possession.
Okay.
What did you think? We're talking about Andrzej Zulawski's Possession
Yes.
from 1980, which is a horror film. I don't care what anybody says, and it is a Lovecraft film in the last 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Possession of
No, yeah.
Lovecraft.
Yeah, it's hold on, I'm gonna pull up an image for the live stream.
And it's in English, so even though it's a mixture of, well, the director's Polish and the lead actress is French and the lead actor's from New Zealand, and it's filmed in Germany. It's all pretty much all in English. What did you think?
I told you I thought it was like the whole first 2/3, 3/4 of the movie was an interesting descent into madness, and then the last like 20 minutes or last hour, I don't remember, last quarter of the movie was like a classy Hellraiser. And,
oh right, that's a great parallel.
And it was fantastic. I loved it, and I loved how it did that shift from just a movie about madness to wait, no, there's something more here. And whereas like Hellraiser, they show you right at the beginning, like, oh, it's this crazy like monster or whatever.
Right.
But no, it was really beautiful. It was really well done. I loved it, and the acting. I love Sam Neill. I think
I love Sam Neill too.
He's one of my like top 10 or whatever.
Me too.
But even the woman in that film was phenomenal. Like she was better than Sam Neill. Just well,
she got all kinds of awards. Did she? I'm not sure if she got an award at Cannes, but she got big awards for that role, for that performance.
She deserves it. That breakdown in the subway was something famous. Else.
It's famous.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it had to be all done in one shot because I don't think she could do that twice.
I don't know, but apparently it was very the whole process was apparently a nightmare. But I have questions about like Raw. Some of the I have questions for you and Crystal. Well, and hopefully Brady and Kendall will join us as well.
Yeah.
About Raw, about Goodnight Mommy. I have a lot of questions about Goodnight Mommy. I have a lot of questions about Possession. Like a lot of the movies I want us to talk about have these gaps of like, I'm not sure why that just happened, or I'm not sure what this whole section was about. But, you know, I really like the movie, but I would love to have us talk more to get some answers or to just hash some certain things out, because again, we all come at it from such different ways, from such different angles, that anything related to folklore or fairy tales, you know, you have to, if you don't have the answer, I'll never speak to you. I always like, oh, Monica will understand this whole thing going on here. Because like weird Norse, some ancient medieval Norse, you know, family saga that they're referencing here, and I'm just not sure which one or what it is. So Monica will explain it, or like with Lovecraft, because he's showing up everywhere these days.
Yeah, and I love it. He's phenomenal, and I feel like. And the funny thing is like it's largely not him; it's people continuing his work that have made it so amazing.
I bet reading Clive Barker, I see how much is borrowed, you know, from.
I mean, technically, even Evil Dead, like they flat out use the Necronomicon, which is.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's fantastic. People just keep going with it, and it just keeps growing. And it's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be organic. It makes it feel more realistic when it's coming from multiple citations.
Right. It's just weird that it's taken so long for it to become as.
Yeah. And I guess still like we went on the Lovecraft tour. Like we went to Pennsylvania, and me and Paul went and like visited all the places that Lovecraft went, and even there, where you could take the Lovecraft tour, half the people we would talk to did not know who he was.
Interesting.
And I'm like, we're literally standing at H.P. Lovecraft Square right now. Like his name is on a placard right there.
But I thought he was born. When did he leave Rhode Island? Providence?
Sorry, Rhode Island. You're right. It's like, where was I? Pennsylvania.
Okay, now I'm confused.
No, it's Providence. That's where we went, Rhode Island.
Yeah. Right,
I don't even remember where I went.
Now I remember I lived in Providence for 3 years, and I didn't really know who he was, but there was like a plaque. I guess you're talking about. There's a whole little plaque with a picture of him, and yeah.
Well, so over at Brown University, they have a lot of stuff towards him, and they're actually. Because we went to this, I'm so happy, like, randomly, I was just like, oh, let's go to this Lovecraft store. There's one,
There's a Lovecraft store?
Yeah, in the old mall.
Holy
I think it's called, like, Love Arts and Crafts or something like that. It's really cute. But it's in the old, like, Promenade Mall down there in Providence.
Yeah.
And we were talking to the guy that runs it, and he's the one that's actually putting out all the stuff, and he's like, pretty soon they've got a statue that they've commissioned that they're going to put down in the middle of like Brown University, and they've already because Brown University has a whole bunch of artwork, and it's like this big statue, and it's like it's a really good looking statue. Like I saw it.
Really?
It's pretty cool. It's just a statue of a man holding a book, and then from the book, well, it's like Lovecraft, but from the book there's like 2 tentacles coming out.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like a statue of him, and he's got a book, but there's like tentacles coming out of the book, and it looks really good.
But Brown is such a typical politically correct, like all Ivy League, whatever.
Yeah.
That when people find out some of his political leanings, shall we say, I don't know if everybody's going to be okay with that.
Actually, near the end of his writings did change, and he publicly wrote apologies and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, at the end of his days, because he started traveling more when he got older. And at the end of his days, I can't remember, but I remember watching a documentary about him where there's like a few letters to other famous authors and a few, because he used to write it to the local newspaper in Rhode Island too.
Yeah.
And there's a few of them where he basically does public statements of apology. He still kind of wasn't the greatest on women, but when it came to race, he was like, these people are just the same as us. I can't believe I ever thought otherwise.
Wait, are we talking about his anti-Semitism as well?
Yeah, he started realizing, because he was racist. Several of his literature works have undesirable commentary in them, but later on he apologized. He was just like, basically, I know I'm paraphrasing horribly, but basically we're all human. And that's what he was saying. He realized
I didn't realize
it was at the end of his days, so he was already done writing all his stories. But yeah, he kind of changed right before he died.
Oh, and that marriage looked so
Yeah,
he married a Jewish woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's so weird. And his best friend was gay, right? It's so contradictory and weird.
But I think she forced him to travel too, and then I don't remember if they split up or she died.
Well, he stayed in New York, and he hated it.
Regardless, they weren't married after a while. I don't remember if it's because one of them died or they divorced, but...
What an odd fellow.
Yeah, he was.
But now people are writing... There's this series of philosophy books that are related to his horror of philosophy, and there's 3 of them, but there's more, where they actually use Lovecraft stories as basis for philosophical musings. Actually creating philosophy out of Lovecraft, serious philosophy. So that's getting, that's serious. It's more, this isn't just,
it makes sense. I mean, we watched the Prince of Darkness, and a lot of the subjects that they hit on matter, antimatter, Christ, antichrist.
Yeah.
And the possibility of the deities that we worship are not deities, they're just people with advanced technology that we don't understand. And that's philosophy, but that's largely what he was about.
I hope that people, when they watch our Carpenter trilogy video or listen to the audio, that they'll realize, because I know a lot of people dismiss Prince of Darkness because it is so low budget and it is so
It's very
strange.
campy.
And there's a camp element to it. And the same thing with, it's my contention that In the Mouth of Madness is his great final masterwork. So I hope people realize that the more you know about this stuff, the more you see these films are really kind of major, that the ideas going on are really deep and it's not just gobbledygook, or it's not that Carpenter cares about this stuff, that he's genuinely thinking about this stuff. You know what I mean? And that when you see films where the director, the filmmakers you can tell if the directors are thinking about something that they care about.
Yeah.
I mean, why else would he put Alice Cooper in it? Come on. Anyway, we should wrap up.
Yeah, we really derailed, but I will always talk about Lovecraft.
Yeah, I'm endlessly fascinated. He just the material creeps me out so much. I don't know that I'm ready to dive back into it, but I will. I will.
Even some I don't know. Stephen King is heavily Lovecraft, and Neil Gaiman is heavily Lovecraft. So if you don't want to touch Lovecraft, then I would just recommend a few Stephen King books.
No, I'll go to Lovecraft because I'm not
the source.
And I'm liking the Clive Barker I'm reading. He's really good with language.
Yeah.
And having issues with Stephen King, but we're supposed to talk about The Shining, the book.
Yes, we need to do that.
So that'll be coming. That'll be coming soon, everyone. It'll be very exciting. All right.
All right. So that is wrapped up our films. We watched Evolution, XX, Train to Busan, The Host,
Train to Busan.
Busan. Sorry, I'm doing it off of memory.
Busbar. That's good.
Busbar. That's a drug.
That's why you thought.
Yeah, it's my jaw bleeding through right now. What did we say? Train to Busan, The Host, 10 Cloverfield Lane, and Don't Breathe. All very, very good watches. All right. Thanks for watching our first live stream on Twitch. We will catch you guys later. All right.
See if it works and see if we do it in the future.
Yes.